Let me tell you how my first business failed. My very first startup failed. 2019, we had this beautiful idea. I and a team of other young persons. We had this wonderful, amazing idea that would change the narrative in renewable energy access in Nigeria. However, I wasn't a technical founder, so I had zero technical skill. But then I was the business person. I was leading the team. I was designing the business model. I was identifying how do we make money with this business, who do we target. I was doing all of that, the business development. However, we started off without any agreement. We just started on casual gentleman's agreement. Gentleman's agreement where you don't have any formal agreement. You just start up because you know this person knows you. You just assume that this person has integrity, and then the person assume that you have integrity and everything would work out fine. Spoiler alert, they don't. So we started out on that, and everything was moving on fine until we raised our first funding. That was our first 10,000 USD we raised in grant, and it was at that point that everyone started showing their true colors. The technical lead said, we are the technical, I'm the technical lead. I'm doing all of the hard work. I'm designing the hardware. I'm doing all of that. So you shouldn't get enough equity. You shouldn't get enough equity. I should get almost everything because I'm doing the technical work. However, I did the design. I did the pitching, I did the application, I did all of that. I'm designing the business, but because I didn't have the technical skills, and the entire technical team said, you don't have any technical skill. What are you offering us? What will you be bringing to the table? That. And they said you don't need to get so much equity. You're not contributing so much, so you just be doing managerial work and all that. And besides, you're a woman, you're definitely going to get married, so you get distracted with having children, moving about, you're moving with your husband and all of that. And it was at that point I didn't agree. We fought. Everybody fought. The team scattered and we all splitted. And at that point, I just knew that that business wasn't going to scale, because in as much as we wanted to resolve that issue amicably, we got even the funders involved. They tried to resolve, but I knew in my heart of heart that that business wasn't going to scale. We tried to resolve, it couldn't. The business failed, like it shattered. It spoiled, everything spoiled, everybody went their separate ways. But that was a powerful lesson for me, because from that very moment up until now, for every business I start, for any venture, any partnership of any sort, I'll make sure we have documentation in place. I'll make sure we sign papers. We'll have, what are you doing? What am I doing? What am I bringing in? What are you bringing in? Let's sign. You will do this. You will do that. You will get this amount of equity. I will get this amount of equity. This amount of equity that I'm getting will be vested for a period of 3 years or 5 years with a 1-year cliff. And if you fail to fulfill your obligation, your responsibility, you don't get this. If you fail, so it applies to all parties. So whether it is my mother, my father, my husband, we all have to get the documentation right. Okay, so that was my first startup mistake. Of course, after that, I made a couple of other mistakes that I'm putting together and I would be sharing with you. So you need to stay glued, follow me, and I will unfold all of these mistakes. And not just my mistakes, I've curated, mistakes from other founders, top founders that you know of, and I will be sharing them with you as well. So if you have any questions, if you've made similar mistakes, or you have any questions on any of this, you can put it on the comments below and I would respond to that.